TaraChessAcademy, and in today's video, we are going to discuss examples of discovered attack and how to use this idea to win your games.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hi!
For today, we prepared interesting examples, so let's start. In the position on the chessboard, you see that white has like an extra rook and extra knight, so position could seem like easy winning, but this position is tricky and everything is not so obvious. So black pawns are close to the first rank, yeah, and of course black wants to promote. So white's plan is not just to stop the pawns, but I think there is also a first way to mate the black king. So let's start discussing this position. And maybe first we could start with an obvious move. Yeah, what happens if we just capture one of the black pawns? Then I think black just moves the king to b2, attacking the rook. Yeah, and now the pawn wants to promote. And to be honest, I don't see anything except just trading the rook to this pawn. Yeah, and we just get a draw endgame. So it's not a winning position for white. Yeah, just a knight is not enough to win the game. So that's why, yeah, it's kind of like poisoned pawn. If we capture it, we can't win the game. So should be something else, yeah? And to be honest, I think we also have to find the way how to use the knight in our plan. So Tara, maybe you have some ideas?
Well, if the knight moves, so let's say if it moves to c6,
Mm-hmm.
and the king moves to b2 because they want to not block their pawn so that it can promote, then what I would try is rook to b4 to give a check.
Mm-hmm.
The king would probably move to a1. It's their only move. And now if I try something like king to c3, it's going to be a stalemate because the black pawns are moving down the board and the pawn on a7, a2 is being blocked by the king. The king cannot move to b1 or to b2 because of the rook and the white king. So this would be a stalemate, and that means that it's not what we want because we can actually make a winning position here. So it's not the best idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe after knight c6 is still possible to win. Yeah. Maybe we can try to change position of the rook, try to move it to c4 then to c2. But even if white wins, I think it takes much more time. So instead of knight c6, I'm pretty sure that white has a better plan. So let's think what else white could start with.
So how about we try getting the rook to the b file, because if it does, we would aim at all of the squares on the b file. And that would be important because we don't want the black king to move away so that they would threaten the pawn to promote. Because if we do something that allows the king to move to the b file, then, so let's just say we move our knight to c6.
You mean to start with knight c6 again? Okay.
Right,
King
so I
b2.
just wanted to discuss why it doesn't work of not moving our rook to the b file. Because if we don't, the pawn is going to promote, and then we would have to give another check, and we would get into the same position that we did in the last one. So we would have to control the b file for this not to be a stalemate.
Yeah. So, and I also want to say that if, for instance, we start with rook b4 immediately, it's a stalemate, yeah? So that's why the rook can't get there immediately as the first move. So what should we do? What ideas do you have?
Well, if we want to move the rook to the b file but have it not be a stalemate, we have to be very, very clever on where we should move our rook. So if we move our rook to a square like a5, a6, or a7, what would happen? So let's say the rook moves to a7, the black king moves.
a6. So check, yeah. King goes a1, and now white doesn't have time for moving the knight, yeah, just because of a stalemate. So for sure, probably b6, b5, or b7 is not the right place for the rook. So what should we do? What should we start with?
I have another possibility that I want to suggest to our viewers. So if the rook moves to a8, the difference that I'm trying to make here is that I'm trying to move the rook way far behind, so that now if the knight moves, we could allow the black king to move because it would have possibilities to move too. So
Okay.
let me show you what I'm thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's say we move a rook to b8.
King
The
a1.
king gets out of the check. Now let's say if the knight moves to b7,
It's not a
we would allow,
stalemate anymore.
right, because we allow the black king to move to b2 or to b1. So the difference here is that once the king moves to, let's say, b2,
b1, b2, okay.
so now the difference here is that the knight can move to c5 and make a discovered check, as well as getting closer to the black king.
Yeah, so no choice. Yes, the king always has to move back to a1. So what happens now? How would you play?
Well, what I would try now is, well, I can see that if the knight moves to a4, that would be a stalemate again. So probably not that.
So I think we still have to block b file for the rook, yeah, and we can even play knight b3, yeah, to make a move with a check. It's not so important for us where exactly the king moves, to b2 or to b1. We still have the same solution here. Yeah, it's mate in 2. So knight goes to d4, yeah, and by the way, you see how many discovered checks we had in this position. So king goes to a1, and it's just mate like this, yeah?
So the key here is that we wanted the rook to move to a8 or to a1, so that once we check the king and the king steps out of the way, we can allow the knight to block the rook on purpose. And we're doing this because the king would have no choice but to move to the b file, and then we can make a discovered check. But if we move the rook to a5, to a6, or to a7, we don't allow our knight to block the rook. Is that right? We don't allow the knight to block the rook. So that would make it a stalemate. But when you move it to a1 and give a check on b1, then the knight can block the rook, and that would allow the black king to make some moves. So then we continue the discovered checks, and then finally we had a mate in 2. So everything worked out well.
Yeah, you're right. So yeah, the main idea is to be able to block b file with a knight. Yeah, so that's why the only right place for the rook is b8 in this position. Okay, so nice example of using discovered attack, and I think we're ready to go to the next position. So this one, yeah. As you can see, white has an extra pawn, yeah, and by the way, it's a passed pawn. So of course, white would be happy to find a winning plan here. So what ideas of discovered attack do you see, Tara? So what ideas do you have?
The most obvious one is bishop captures h7 because we attack the king, and you were probably thinking about this too. So if the king captures the bishop,
yeah, we want to capture with the king because we don't want to be mated, yeah? And it's better if white captures, it's better for black if white captures the rook without check. So queen takes e8, yeah? And now I
right,
think
the queen
black...
captures the white queen.
No, I don't want to capture the white queen because then white gets an extra material, yeah? So I think this position should be losing for black. So that's why I think instead of doing this, black gonna check the white king, yeah? The king has to move here, and I'm afraid that this position is losing for white because after rook takes c4, I don't see how to avoid problems with rook g4 mate or check. So it looks like in this position, white can just resign. There is no way to defend the king. And as you can see, all the checks that white can make for the black king, yeah, these moves are not good moves because white just gonna lose the queen. So that's why this obvious bishop takes h7 move, unfortunately, is a losing move in this position. So Tara, let's think maybe white has something better.
So
What do you
bishop
think?
captures h7 doesn't work. I do have an idea that might work because it's it's a bit more tactical. It's like you the idea that I'm thinking about is bishop to g6. So my point of this
Nice.
move is that I would attack the queen as well as the rook. And the reason why I move it to g6 is so that I can interfere with the queen's protection of the rook. And if you remember this idea, it's called deflection. When distract you distract a piece, an opponent's piece, from doing a job that they should be doing. So here the black queen should be protecting the rook so that it doesn't get into any danger. But we want to deflect the queen so that we do allow us to get the rook. So here if the queen captures the bishop, that's one variation. So if the queen captures it, we capture the rook. The queen takes, we capture back with our rook.
So it just looks like a winning position for white, yeah, because white has an extra material, an exchange, an extra pawn, so white should win without any problems, yeah. So probably after bishop g6, it's not good to capture the bishop, right? So I think it's more interesting for black to capture the queen. What do you think, Tara?
If we want to capture the queen, you might be thinking about rook captures the queen on e2.
Yeah. And I don't think that white has anything better than getting the queen back, right? Okay, so just bishop takes h5. Okay, let's think what happens now. We want to, we attack the rook. So black has a choice to trade rooks or maybe to capture the pawn on a2. Yeah? So what happens if black captures the pawn?
Now we have a checkmate in one with rook to e8.
Yeah, so that's why it looks like in this position, black doesn't have any choice. The rook has to capture the rook on e1. Yeah, so just an exchange. And now I think that white still has an idea to mate in one. So how would you play for black? How would you defend this position? How would you defend your king from this mate in one?
There are two possibilities I'm thinking about. The first one is rook to c8, and the second one is pawn to g6. I would probably, or black would probably play pawn to g6 so that they not only stop your checkmate threat, but they're also attacking your bishop, which creates a second threat.
Yeah, I'm agree. So I think g6 is more interesting. Okay, what should we do in this position? Of course, the most obvious move is just to move the bishop away. But then I think after maybe pawn takes c4, this position shouldn't be winning for white, yeah? So now white has a passed pawn, black has a passed pawn, so I think this endgame looks more like an equal endgame. I think so. So maybe in this position, bishop g4 is not the best move. Let's think about intermediate moves. So Tara, what ideas do you have?
More important than the bishop, our pawn on d5 could be, well, it is a passed pawn, and it does have chances of promoting. So I would advance it to d6.
Okay, interesting. So first, let's discuss what happens if black just ignores this move and captures the bishop. So what happens then?
Now we advance our pawn further to d7.
Okay, so pawn goes to d7, and I don't see how black can stop it. So if the rook goes to c8, yeah, we just capture it. We can promote a queen, yeah, not so
And we
important
can
for
even
us.
move a rook to e1 and make a fork.
Yeah, so of course it's an absolutely win and can't game for white. So that's why probably black shouldn't ignore this pawn. And I think black could try to stop it with a rook or with a bishop. So let's discuss first what happens if the rook goes to c8. So how would you play in this position? What would you do?
So now I'm still going to advance my pawn further by moving it to d7.
Okay, maybe I play rook d8. What happens then?
And now I have a super cool idea. Rook to e8. Rook to check. The black rook captures our rook. And now we capture it back with our pawn and promote to a queen.
Yeah, so of course a winning endgame for a white. Okay, so maybe it's better to stop the pawn with a bishop. What happens if black plays bishop c6? So what should we do?
If black plays bishop to c6, I want to defend my pawn so that if it does advance to d7, the bishop won't be able to capture it safely. So I would move the bishop to g4.
Yeah, I think bishop g4 looks like a nice idea. So what can black do in this position? For instance, let me capture the pawn with the rook, yeah, because my plan is to put the rook behind the pawn and try to stop it in this way. So what would you do for a white?
Now I'll advance my pawn to d7. The rook moves to d4 to try and stop the pawn, but I would give a check by moving the rook to e8. The king slips out of the way, and then I can promote.
Yeah, it looks like an absolutely winning position for a white. Yeah, so there is no way to stop. I think it could be like if black doesn't want to lose this position immediately, yeah, probably after the pawn goes to d7, black can just capture it with the bishop. Yeah, but still this endgame should be winning for white. Yeah, an extra bishop should be enough to win this position. Yeah, so
Right, so now white has a winning position, and because we didn't really necessarily sacrifice because the passed pawn was more important than the bishop. So we understood the priorities we have. So more important than a bishop that's worth 3 points instead of a pawn that's 1 point, we still advanced her pawn because trying to promote it is a stronger idea. Because even if we did lose our bishop, we'll get a winning position by promoting our pawn. And if they don't capture the bishop and they try to stop our passed pawn, we just protect it and we find ways to advance it and make it come into a queen. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video to others. I'll see you on my next video. Bye!
Bye.